All right. Good evening. Go ahead, Trent. I'm going to throw it to you.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Hot Pink Pride Media's Transvisibility Talks. This podcast tonight is dedicated to exploring issues facing the transgender community, and I have the pleasure of being your host tonight, Coach Rev Trent. And my pronouns are he, him, and his. And you're probably wondering, where did I get that name? So, yes, I am a licensed life coach, but I also am an ordained reverend in the Lord's Church. And I don't know how that sounds, but that's what it is. I'm also the founder and executive director of Link Together Connection Center, based right here in Dallas, Texas. Today, we have an amazing show lined up for you. We'll be sharing our experiences today and discussing some of the key issues facing the transgender community, as well as sharing our experiences and insights to be transgender in today's world. So I'm going to allow everyone on the panel to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your pronouns, and then I got some questions that we're going to jump right in.
Go ahead.
Tell everybody.
Well, my name is Jules Charlton. I'm down here in Florida, representing the AMG team. I'm the Two Live crew from the East Coast. So I came to bring the energy, the love, and let's talk about it because I'm ready to get into it. Yo, y'all want to know a little bit about me? Is that what y'all want to know? I'm the truth. I pop out like 4 flats in the Cadillac. I plays no games.
Absolutely.
And I'm ready to talk to y'all about business. Because the one thing that we need to bring to the table is helping with financial freedom. And that's where I come. That's where I come in because I can help y'all make the money that y'all need and live the life that y'all always wanted to live. And, that's the area where I'm at. Because if we all got money, ain't going to be no hate. Ain't going to be no, you know what I'm saying? If we all making money together, it's harmony in my eyes.
Next
Hello,
up.
I am I am Farrah McLaughlin. Well, Pastor Farrah McLaughlin. Y'all, I'm very transparent. My ministry is Together Forever, Forever Together Ministries. We are located here in Philadelphia. I also am a holistic person. I help people with skincare, with just nurturing a body and just all around just health and just living life. I also help out with my trans community here in Philadelphia as much as I can. I have a lot of resources and a lot of people that I can just help people to navigate them. But that's what we do here in Philadelphia. We feed the homeless, um, and that's just about me. Just
Okay,
a
well, looks like OD stepped away. I'm sure he'll be back soon, to introduce himself. Go ahead, OD. I can't hear you. Are you muted? I can't hear you. That was my problem. That's why I had to drop off for a minute
Can you hear
because
me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, go
My
ahead.
name is Odie Wilson. Shout out to Farron, Philadelphia. I'm originally from West Philadelphia, so shout out to my Philadelphia fam. I am a parole. Well, I'm a parole officer. Was a parole officer in Odessa. Um, right now, I work for the state, still in another department, but um, I am an ordained minister under the Tabernacle of God under Pastor Marguerite Phillips, and I am a, of course, transgender, and I go by he, him, his. Um, I am just, I'm the type of person, I'm straightforward with everybody I work with. I just don't see any reason to sugarcoat things anymore. It's just, time people just need a realistic, sometimes people just need just a safe check, a realistic check on themselves. And I'm very passionate about things that are going on in the transgender community, actually the LGBTQ community. So I'm very passionate about our topic tonight and getting an understanding.
Well, thank you, OD. I appreciate that. And so, one reason that we have gathered here today is, of course, because, Hot Pink Pride Media is a LGBT based organization. We are, interested in discussing, the key issues, anything society wise that has an effect on not just transgender, but also, you know, the LGBT community in and of itself. I just find it wonderful that all of us have some background in the church, and that's really going to help us go far. So as we're expanding Hot Pink Pride Media, you know, to include the full breadth of the, you know, of the rainbow, then I wanted to have a you know, a segment, an episode, podcast, whatever you guys want to call it, you know, that is dedicated to the unique challenges that transgender individuals face, you know, when it comes to things like um, healthcare, when it comes to things like uh, being incarcerated and then re-entering society, because being incarcerated is, you know, one whole society in and of itself. But then re-entering society, you know, just as who you are, and then, you know, just allowing different people throughout the community to discuss some key issues facing the transgender community, facing the LGBT community. I think just now we were talking about growing up in the church, and really it wasn't just about growing up in the church, but it was about kingdom finances. You know, I think about things like tithing and giving that we were taught when we were younger, you know, and how that has an effect on the community itself. You know, where are we financially? Where are we economically as a community? I know when I first met Jules, I was like, look, I'm trying to fill my life with a whole bunch of rich black lesbians, you know, and then whoever else, you know. So I mean, but that's, you know, that's just my little corner of the world, right? But y'all know I can talk about it all night long. Okay. But that's been the main focus. So Trent, I'm gonna come back to you. Okay. So as we're advocating for transgender rights, how and you know, and privileges and things like that, how does links fit into that equation?
So Link is LYNC. Oh, first of
I'm
all, let me say
sorry.
this. Shout out. I'm from New York. I know I'm in Dallas, but we're gonna quit this East Coast thing. No, I was saying that because I heard D and they had the little Philly thing going on. So I thought I might want to chime that in there. But just
Wait
a
a
little
minute,
here,
wait
right?
a minute,
But
wait
Link
a
together
minute, because
of your
I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Philadelphia.
oh,
Okay,
okay.
get it straight
Then we
now. Get
definitely
it
family.
straight.
Then we definitely family. Okay. Roger that. Okay. But yeah, so Link Together is really it's Loving New Creation Connection Center. And it is my ministry. It is what I do, it's what I'm called to do. For me, being someone who was in church and a lot of trauma that I experienced spiritually, I wanted to create a place and a platform and a safe haven for folks to come and be reintroduced to spirituality beyond religion. I wanted to be able to coach folks back into a healthy therapeutic environment, and also have resources for people that look like me, because I didn't find that when I first started out my transition. So that's what we
Right.
do. We coach, we counsel, we refer, and I speak, I minister, and do all those things because I always tell people God hired me, so nobody else can fire me. So it doesn't really matter
Okay.
what you believe and what your religious preferences, if you will. My creator is who designed me and hired me for this job. And so I got to do it. And that's really what we do at Link. We have a retreat. I do focus a lot on the trans masculine space, for, of course, folks like me, because of course I want to be able to, people want to see a resemblance of themselves, right? So I do
Right.
focus primarily on trans masculine individuals, but we are open to the entire queer space, the entire trans, non-binary, our siblings. We don't turn anyone away, but you will see a lot of the work that I do centered around Black trans men retreats and clothing and things like that. But our closet has clothes for kids all the way up, and so we just provide services in that aspect.
Right. And that was one thing too, with Farah's work that she does there in Philadelphia. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you recently had an event, Farah, there, and you participated in it yourself. I believe it was the pray and skate. Was that what it was?
the pray Our praying state. So our pray and skate it. So this is the thing, because I'm a pre-K kid and I am a minister, and I have this mandate over my life to bring all people together. I don't care if you are trans. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're bisexual. This is our picture that we had took, because we call ourselves the church without walls. I'm not looking for a building, and I'm not going in a building. Jesus didn't go in one, and I'm not going in one. We are here to serve the community, not just serve the community, but be a beacon of light and hope, and let you know that this life that we was given is for us to enjoy it. It is not meant for us to be way down, or I can't wear this because of the church, or because of this one, or what this person may think. I can't listen to this. No, I'm going to enjoy life, because he said that he gave me life, and he gave it to me more abundantly. So I began to start seeking God, and he said, together forever, forever together. And I began to ask him, what does that truly mean? And he said, it is a community, it is a conversation, it is a commitment, it is communion, and it is creativity. And I said, the 5 C's of Christ. That's where I came up with the 5 C's of Christ. And that's what Christ was. He was community. He was conversation. He was communion. He was creative. Because I don't think nobody else could have fed 5,000 with 2 breads, but he made tuna fish, but that's just me. But I'm just being honest. Like, we have to get out in these streets and really understand that if we're the light of this world, then it is for us to go out into the dark places. I'm not shunning nobody away because of what you got on. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be as transparent as I can be, and be open as I can be. I struggle just like everybody else struggle. I got things going on that this right here, this piece right here was to the transparent bishop. At the time, I was about to be ordained as a bishop, but now I'm just walking in my full calling of a pastor. But it says, Jesus said, "Whosoever follow me will not walk in the dark, but have the light. Be the light of life." And a lot of people don't understand what that means. That means to take what's inside of you and what he placed inside of you, and give it back to the people. Not how somebody else do it, but how he gave it directly to you. And it may not seem right to Jim. It may not seem right to Becky. It may not seem right to anybody, but you know what God designed you for. So you have to walk in that. You have to trust in that. And it's been times where I'll be like, God, I don't know if this working. They coming at me hard. But you have to you have to stand in your transparency. You have to talk about it. So this segment was them asking me anything. Nothing is off the table. Ask me about any type of spirituality, because I teach it all. I teach every type of spirituality in my church, and I bring it of the Holy Ghost, and I bring it to an understanding of, we're not doing that in dark, we're doing it in light. We don't do that. We prophesy over here. You know what I'm saying? If you started off with cards, by the time you get done with me, you're gonna be opening your mouth with the full understanding of the Holy Ghost that's inside of you, and speaking out of your mouth what God has for the person, or what God wants you to say directly to that person.
Okay. Well, I knew you once you got going, you was gonna get going. I knew it. Okay. I want to kind of bring things here to
like mother, like daughter.
Hey, that's how it is. That's why we, mesh the way that we do. Someone's asking me to make this public. I'm definitely gonna make it public. I wanted to bring things now. OD, you said that you are doing something different now, okay, within the state. I kind of want to, because part of my ministry is also including prison ministry, okay, with when a transgender person is incarcerated, what are the challenges that they face while inside, and then when they're moving back into mainstream society? What have you seen, and how have you been able to contribute that? Because in your capacity as a minister.
Well, first, when I'm also a substance abuse counselor. So
Okay.
I worked at the prison. It's called the Safe P Prison. And Safe P Prison is a program where a sentence can be reduced on a convict if he has an addiction in a, let's say, general population prison. He has to go through a 9-month to 12-month program in a specialized prison dealt with addiction. So if they go through this process, they get a sentence reduction and they will be eligible for parole. And they have to complete the program. Well, we did have a couple of transgendered offenders in this program. One was a girl named Leslie that I happened to have to counsel. Well, when you get into the system, first of all, in Texas is not recognized. So even your blockers, you don't get the treatment. So your transgender treatment, if you're a male to female, you don't get the female the shots. You don't get the you have to go by your government name, what's on your birth certificate, which you were born. So if you still have your male anatomy, you're considered a male. It doesn't matter how it's going to mess with you mentally. They don't care. You're a male and you're placed in a general population male form.
Right.
You are subject to get raped, of course. And it doesn't matter. Now, on the forefront of that, to all looks, of course, everybody will make it seem like they don't, nah, we ain't gonna mess with you. But behind closed doors, that person is in a lot of trouble because at nighttime they get raped, they get harassed. Sometimes they've been getting harmed or even killed.
Mm-hmm.
So the prison system is not ready. Right now, they have nothing set up. Let's say, God forbid, I get arrested and I identify as a trans man, I would still go to unfortunately, a female facility because they were not going to recognize, even if my gender markers are changed, they don't recognize it. They're not prepared for that. And they're not trying to. It's not very important on their agenda for that. You can see right now where they got this woke going on with the Republicans. They don't care. They're trying to roll back the clock and make it disappear, and it's not going to disappear.
Well, that was one of the things that it seems like there's a lot of anti-LGBTQ legislation on the table now, just across the board, from criminalizing things like drag shows, and even the drag queen story hours, which I find absolutely wonderful. I wish I could do it myself, and I can. And so I can only imagine that the prison reform is eons behind what we have going on out in the so-called free world.
The problem you're facing with that individual who doesn't get the treatment or doesn't get the counseling is that they end up wanting to commit suicide. They end up really going crazy in there. It's messed up. Because what people have to understand, this is not a phase. This is not something somebody's just going through. This is you're who you are.
Right.
You identify everything about you. So have somebody tell you, no, you're not who you are. That's not you. And you can't be who you are. That doesn't make any sense to you, does it? Because you know who you are. So telling me I'm not who I am, and that's just a phase you're going through, that's going to mess you up. And not allowing you to be who you are, how are you going to react to that? How do you react to that?
You rebel. I mean, that's the only natural thing to do.
So you're in a prison system and you have no right. They treat you like crap anyway. You have no rights and they don't care. So what does that do to your mentality? You're already locked up. Number one, so you're already traumatized. And I don't know how many times I went in that prison. I know I went to go home to hear those doors slam behind you. And our mentality isn't even that system. If there's a hostage situation, they're not making any deals. So I get in a situation there, I'm stuck in there. And you might mind you, when I did my counseling sessions, I'm in a dorm with like 50 to 60 men. And it's them and me. There's no guard in there. It's them and me. And that's it. So if they want to act stupid or silly, it's just me. What I liked about it is I treat everybody like an individual and I gained their respect. So there was I never had a problem with them. They respected me, I respected them, and I listened to them. But it
And I
also,
think that's probably the one thing that is definitely needed there and throughout the community at large is someone who will listen, okay, because people need to feel like they are being heard and understood.
and see, that's not what's happening in there, and that's definitely not what's happening within our own community. Because people, now they're judging, they're saying what they don't like, they don't understand, but they're not listening. They're not trying to understand,
Right.
and that's the problem.
And there's so much when I say hate, and I'm address this to Farah, um, because I've heard so many of my trans sisters who have really received like a lot of backlash from um, and what do we call it? Because we struggle with labels so much with born natural women. When we get into debates like that, Farah, how do how does it make you feel, and how do you? Is there a place that you feel like you have to defend who you are? Because, like Od said, who you are is who you are. Why should you have to defend it? Why should you have to, you know, get a soapbox or a flag for it? And just, but unfortunately, that's the way that it is because we do see a lot of bashing really on both sides, especially for women. I don't know how it is for
and
you
this is the
guys,
thing.
but for women, it's
I, for me to to speak on that part because I deal with that. So because I hang around a lot of biological women, and I've noticed I'm your sister or I'm your girlfriend as long as we are good, as long as we are, not debating on anything, then I'm a girl to you. I'm your sister. But as soon as I go and say something that you don't like, oh, I'm just a regular nigga. And it
come
used
on,
to
girl.
bother me for so long, but then trans women also that sit there and bash biological women on. Listen, I'm a woman. I don't have to debate it. I don't have to. I'm not looking for you to. I'm not looking for you to accept it. I'm not looking for your validation. I'm not looking for your certification. What I'm looking for you is to respect me for a human being and just being who I am. If you want to break the word down, human being, it is HU, which means God. If you do your research,
Come
man,
on,
which means
Pastor.
mankind, be in that present moment and continue going. And it's called human being. So therefore, I'm not looking for you to understand um, if I'm a woman or not. I want you to respect me for the human being that I am. And
Mhm.
a lot of times we just need to separate all the label and just realize that that person is a human and they deserve respect. And I tell my trans sisters and I tell my trans brothers and my kids and all of them, when you make this transition, and that's why I love when you named it be trans, be trans, be ye transferred by the Riemann. I love that scripture because when you take this step, this is not a step that you take for a carnal thing. This is a step that
Right.
you take on a mental level and on a spiritual level and stepping exactly to who you are. And I tell them all the time, don't look for your family to accept you. Look for the respect of who you are to them. And that will change. That's what we need to do. We need to stop looking for acceptance from the world and we need to start respecting each other in our different spaces.
Right. You are so right. Thank you so much, honey.
Like you
Okay, I
said,
knew we was gonna get it
you know,
on
you
out
said a
there.
whole. You said Yeah, you said a mouthful because, like, and I think Evangelist said this too. She was like, I don't know about the men, but believe it or not, sis, like it happens with us too. You know what I mean? We go in community and we you can call a trans man bro all day long if he was a stud, if he was considered AG or whatever. But the moment that trans man was like, okay, I'm trans today, now it's a problem. Now you want to go back to cis, she, oh, you just, you know what I'm saying? And so it's the same. We experience I don't want to say the same to like minimize the effect of what it has, but in our communities, we go through the same exact feelings of like, you was calling me your bro before I even acknowledged that I was a bro. You know what I mean? Like you know, we was cool when I was wearing, you know, more masculine presenting clothes and I was doing all these things. You were cool with all of that. But the moment I get over here now and I'm actually walking in my authenticity, now is I can't call you by that name. I can't, you know, or we get diminished to our genitalia. And it's like, okay, if you haven't had bottom surgery, now you can't respect this person as the individual that they are. And so that's what takes me
See,
back to
that's the
that
whole thing,
prison.
Trent. You know, that's the whole thing. You know,
And
my
that part
mentality
gets me off.
it's always
Yeah.
been, why do you have to label somebody by looking up under their
Go ahead.
clothes and pulling back their sheets? You know what I'm saying? That's not how you label a person. You know, I label according to a feeling. You know, I mean, if you feel like a man to me, then I'm gonna call you a man. If you feel like a woman, I'm gonna call you a woman. And then if I get it wrong, then charge it to my head and not my heart. You know what I'm saying?
What happened to just getting to know? You know, I tell you know, something my roommate said to me, said, you know, you're not really in any category. You're just OD.
Exactly.
You're just, that's who I am. I really don't belong in any I mean, that's the
Mhm.
label, but I really don't. I'm just me.
Right.
And I'm the same me when Trent knew me years ago. I'm still me.
Mhm.
I got some hair. I'm a little older, but I'm still me.
Mhm.
Mentality's still the same. So I just never understood the difference between me and a stud or whatever. I'm the same person. The only difference is I'm walking in who I am. But what's the big deal? You know.
Well, OD, you got as much as gray hair as I do, you know, and so
Oh, I love what you just said there.
okay. What? You got as much gray hair as I do, honey. And so, you know, back in our day, that's what it was, you know. I mean, if you catch me after about a week, I probably got as much facial hair as you do, you know. And so without all of this makeup and everything, you might not even be able to tell us apart. And so but my whole thing is that it's really just about accepting a person for who they are, who they say they are, and who they present themselves as to be. I, you know, in looking at all of this anti everything legislation, like they want to take away access to health care, you know, and knowing that there is, and see, we might even get into some scientific stuff, knowing that we know that there is misgendering that goes on at birth. We know that there is, you know, an assignment according to, you know, a list, and this is what you are. We know that there are androgynous people that are born into this world where, you know, their gender is ambiguous at best. Then, you know, it always comes down to the Garden of Eden. Okay. It always comes down to covering what our shame is supposed to be.
But you know what's really crazy about that is, like I said, this stuff is not new.
No, it's not.
It's not new. In fact, when I was younger, the surgery of the reconstructing, you know what the hormone that or transsexual.
Mhm.
There were a lot of children born transsexual, and
Yes.
the surgery was performed based on if the parents wanted a girl or a female.
Mhm.
So
Oh, boy.
if the person was born that way, okay, and the parents decided, okay, we want a girl, but the mentality of that person might have been, they might have been more masculine, but because you decided you wanted a girl and not let them be who they naturally was, a man.
And we're talking about a baby.
Right. You got to confuse the individual growing up,
Mhm.
because even though they have both parts, they were more along the lines of a masculine side, but you decided you wanted a girl, so you cut off that part and push something on them. So this surgery reconstruction, it's not new. It's been around since the beginning of time. We've made improvements on it, but people are like, oh, no, this can't happen, or no, you were born this way. No, there were a lot of changes back then. It's just that it wasn't in the form of I couldn't make the change. My parents did it.
Right.
That's the only difference.
And you're absolutely right.
Hmm?
Go Go ahead.
No, I was saying
And
it's
I
not just that
knew-
the surgeries has been around. I mean, trans people, we've been here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like this concept of trans people are just now evolving. It like baffles me. Yeah, we're probably what I would consider standing our ground or more vocal and more visible about requiring and demanding our respect. But trans individuals, queer people, LGBTQ, the alphabet soup, however you want to look at it, have always existed. Maybe under the shadows, certain time periods, you had to navigate and move through society a certain type of way. And as the time evolves, then we evolve. And so now we're in a season and a time period where people don't have to be under the radar anymore. They don't have to be shamed because of feelings that they have, whether it's a sexual preference or gender identity. But I think when people keep saying things like, you know, this just popped on the scene, like the whole Target debate that's going on now, like it's just like these things that keep happening. It's like people just picking and choosing what battle or what side of the field they want to be on. But we've always been here. We've always been present in our most humanistic, holistic, or spiritual being. You know, we've always been here. And at the base level, we're spiritual individuals, and spirits have no gender. And so at the base level, we're just a soul living out in this flesh. And I think once people get that concept, we won't have these debates anymore.
Well, you know, the thing about it is because I'm just gonna put it out there as any good preacher would, okay? Because of sin, that is what brings up the high arguments, the things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. Because, like each one of you have alluded to, and we know we've been talking about this since the beginning of time. It's all throughout the Bible, okay, the New and the Old Testament. Okay. And so it's one of those things that if you can categorize it as black or white, male or female, okay, even in that, you don't have the standing to come up against just the true knowledge of God, is that God created all things good. You know, that that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, you know, each and every one of us in his image. Okay, in his divine image, which knows.
I just feel like if we go back to that scripture, if you really study the scripture and go back to its full form in the Hebrew text, it is created them.
Them. You're okay. They them. Come on.
It says
I was getting ready to say I preached a message
female.
called "We Are All Trans" from that scripture. He created male, female, and them.
But the Bible talks about us transitioning and talks about, you know, going in. First and foremost, you gotta think. What was Peter was Paul? No, not Peter was Paul. What was his name? Saul. Peter was Saul.
Right.
That is a transition. They talked about how he descended so he can ascend. That is a transition.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to look at it in its whole entirety, and we can't not just pick what we want from the Bible. The first thing that we want, the people of God want to bring up, or the church itself want to bring up, is they want to bring up this thing about Solomon and Gomorrah, but you have to do your research on it. You have to do. They was running rapid. They was raping boys. They was doing all type of foul stuff.
Thank you.
So if you're going to do your research, if you're going to come at people, that know the word, this is why we are the rainbow, and I want people to understand this. We keep the Ark Covenant. We're the first covenant of God. And I say this proudly, because a lot of people ain't gonna say that. This is why our label is the rainbow. This is why all the chakra is the rainbow. Why? Because we understand. We don't care what religion you are. We don't care what race you are. We love you for who you are. And if we can get past that as a human race, we've been here. We've been here. We're not going nowhere.
Okay. Well, I just want to take a moment to bring in Bishop Hunt. Bishop Hunt, thank you for joining us this evening. Can you come in and introduce yourself to our audience and, just come in your own way? Thank you so much for joining.
Oh,
You're on,
no. Thanks for having me.
absolutely. So you've been out here for a while, and if I can just kind of give you a little shine there, you have just recently started an LGBTQ organization, Crisis Line. Is it for youth or just crisis in general? Can you come and tell us about that?
Sure. At first, when I started the company, it was just for the LTGB community because they were, I felt like, ignored and like forgotten. So I just wanted to create a 24-hour crisis hotline as to where they can call for free therapy, free counseling. They can call for life skills, interview, anything that they're dealing with at home, work, or school, or suicide prevention hotline. So I was like in the business of saving lives because a lot of them were cutting themselves or hanging themselves, have already attempted it a couple times. Lots of parents are not acceptive of the youth, and sometimes they want to kill themselves because of that. So I just wanted to create a hotline where they can FaceTime, they can text, they can chat and call us. It'll be grants coming from the government. It was going to be like a 501 application I had to fill out, nonprofit organization, so that if it gets approved, then I could get all kinds of grants that'll come in and donations. And I want to like create an organization with you and have like a membership, like a social club. And if you are a member and you pay like $20 a month to be a part of this membership, when the funds do come from the government and the grants, the people who are members are have first dibs on being a crisis worker and getting paid. Because when you get funds from the government, you have to show proof of where these funds are going and who I allocated it to, name, stuff like that. So those people like me, yourself, and the other board members that are actually participating will get paid when funds are available because we're nonprofit or donations. Sometimes the donors even want to see exactly where their money has went to. So I have that proof and provide stack taxes and stubs and W-2 forms like a regular job and go from there. Because they're dealing with, like you said, religion and church, and some of them think, well, I can't go to church because I'm gay. Huh? Well, how's that equivalent? And they don't know because they're young. Some people are not knowledge savvy.
And that's what keeps the debate going. That's what keeps the issues at the top and fresh, is because we are being fruitful, we are multiplying, okay? And each time we bring in younger people, it just kind of starts all over.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where they belong, where they fit in, how do they fit in this. And you would think that we would evolve to the point where it's not an issue, but it is, because there's still restrictions just in life in general.
Hard to get a job. Yep. Being trans is hard to get a job. Being a stud, a femme, like as soon as they find out you're gay, you could lose all kind of friends. So it's like I'm trying to teach coping mechanisms because not everybody knows how to cope and how to deal and what to do with these emotions, especially when you're young. As an adult, you have more self-control than others. So I just want to reach out to those who lack that. You could live in an urban area. Some white kids live way out in urban, remote areas, isolated, and they need a crisis worker like us to talk to because they're isolated and they don't have anybody to express their LTGB-ness to or whatever. There's voice.
Right, okay, their LGBTQ-ness.
That cuteness right there.
Well, that's why we're here at, again, because we are the village, right?
Yeah.
We are the elders, we're the elders.
They facing homelessness. Yeah. They facing a lot at a young age.
Right. And they need to know that there's somebody that cares, somebody that understands, somebody that can connect them to resources.
Because these churches ain't fighting like they should. They saving the people that's already saved. You got to really put the footwork in there and get the nitty gritty of the people who really struggling with addiction. I even want people to call in that have recovered from addiction. Like, you just stopped drinking alcohol. You need to call this crisis hotline so we can talk you out of another drink or drugs. Or you could be a senior and you're at home and you're lonely and you're 70 years old and got nobody to talk to. Some of them even want to kill themselves because they isolated and they lonely. So if they could even call the hotline as a senior, just looking for companionship because they old and they vulnerable, they ready to give away all their little worldly pride possessions just to have a friend.
Don't talk about me too bad.
No, it's for everybody. I'm trying to open the doors. Even if you got a jail and you don't know where to go, where to start. Sometimes you just want to have somebody to talk to. Forget it. Let's just talk then and see what resources are available in your town, in your city, in your state. We'll Google it for you and tell you where you could go and who hiring temp agents wise, or who got a woman board house that's available and not
That
you know
part. Because we do need those types of things. We do need foster care,
advocates.
foster care, homes, things
Yeah.
like that, where people will open up and actually be that, safe place that transgender youth could come to. So we're kind of winding up. This time always goes so fast for me, y'all. I could just be doing this all night. I swear to God, I could. But listen, I want to go around to each one of you and kind of sum up because me being a minister, my main focus is always the youth, and with the addition of Bishop Hunt. Of course, OD, with you being in the parole system, they come in younger. Trent, with you working out here in the streets with homeless, we have youth out here, and of course, I know what you're doing, Farah, out here in Philadelphia with any youth. So, as a transgender person, okay, how would you share your experience growing up as a transgender person and discuss some of the challenges that you experience with young people when it comes to living out loud and you living as their true authentic selves? If y'all want to go around clockwise, I'm going to start with you, Farah, here over to my left or my right. I can't really tell which one it is. And then we're just going to go around clockwise and end with Bishop Hunt. And then
Okay.
she'll take us out after that.
Okay. So because you said a lot. So you want to know about
how you from your transgender younger self. Girl, don't make me explain this again. I will come to Philadelphia.
Okay. For my younger self, it's just like I think for me it was more so just me understanding the difference between acceptance and respect. And the first rule of life is self-preservation. You can respect yourself and you can love yourself truly. Then you don't care about what the world sees you as. You understand who you are as an individual, and it makes you want to live even more. It makes you drive more. And it was, whew, that was a nice question because it got me stuck a little bit, y'all.
Girl,
I ain't gonna say it got me stuck a little bit because it's like I made it through. I did the work and I made it through.
Yeah, and even now, like see you, when you talk with someone, I don't want to put all your business into the street of anything like that. I definitely don't. This is a journey for you, for me, for any of us, and sometimes, being out here and looking at a young person who might have been where you were at one time, it does bring back memories because you do know where they are, and that's the part that I wanted you to share because it's that heart of you that's going to get somebody else over.
As far as like, I grew up in a church and I was shunned from the church. This is the church have always been my first love. And then when I got older, I realized that I went through prostitution, I went through discrimination, I went through being homeless, I went through people misleading me, manipulation, being controlled, and just not being enough to understand that I am enough. I'm enough because every day that I get up and I get to breathe, that God gives me a chance to live. And it's every time I think about it, it's just amazing because I get excited because I made it through. I made it through, and a lot of people may not understand what that means, but if you lived through yesterday, then you've made it through. If you lived through a second ago, you've made it through.
That's it. That's my baby
And that's where I'm
dog,
gonna
y'all.
leave it.
Don't she look like no
Because-
mama, y'all? Don't she look like no mama? I could just snatch you.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
I'm gonna
True.
tell you, you're enough because you were already created enough. You know, you're beyond enough because when God made us, God turned around, looked at themselves, and said, "That's good." So you already know when we was made, we was made more than enough. It's just into us to walk. I would say for my younger self, I would tell myself to give myself more grace. You're looking at someone who tried to kill themselves 3 times, whose family shunned them, church shunned them. My godfather is a major bishop in the Church of God in Christ. I've been in church my whole life. And as you said, church was your first love. I want to take it a little deeper and say God was my first love because I left church, but I never left God. Right. But I would tell my younger self, give yourself more grace. Because I blame myself for a lot of the treatment that I received. I blamed myself for a lot of the lack of love I was receiving, which caused me to look for love in other areas, in other places, got me in some situations that only God could get me out of, right? And then to look now and see youth, like I worked Team Pride this past weekend, and to see these folks with their kids, bringing them out to it. I would have dreamed to have my parents take me to a Pride at 12 and 13 years old to affirm me.
That's the difference.
And it's like, I just, that's why I go, because it's like, I'm so excited. I'm always thanking the parents. Like, I'm so grateful for y'all for bringing them out. I was at the Black Trans Advocacy Conference. We had youth this year whose parents were trying to get informed on how to be a parent to a transgender child. Like, that's evolvement. And so I would tell myself, take some grace, because it's going to get better. It's going to get better.
And that's the difference. Like we say, it's older. I'm sorry, I was just jumping in. Yes, this is an age-old issue, but it's things like this as we transition, as we transform, as we learn more and get more. Yes, we're teaching trans parents how to be parents. They never, knew anything about. They probably needed parenting classes just across the board anyway. You know what I'm saying? So now we have it to where parents can truly seek that guidance, to affirm their child and to allow their child to just grow up to be who God made them to be. Come on through, OD.
I would say to myself, and I'll be transparent. Right now I work with CPS. So I do work with children, and I do have some children that are transgendered. On Monday, I'll be going to child care licensing investigations. So I did get a different position, but I would tell myself to be who you are, be proud. You don't need anybody's approval.
Right.
People think doesn't pay your bills. There was a little girl I saw on TikTok said, "Why do you care what other people think? Have you met other people?" And I thought that was so profound for that little girl, because I don't know who other people are and don't care. So I don't need your approval. We'll take your acceptance.
Okay.
So accept who you are, walk in it, because the only person that you have to really impress, you don't have to impress them. The only person that you really have to just be okay with is God.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite scripture is be still and know that I am God. And that's all you need right there. That's your cheering section. That's your best friend. That's your boyfriend. That's your husband. That's your girlfriend. That's everything you need, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And when you have him on your side, he's not going to let you go. I mean, he's going to mess, things are going to mess with you, but he's not going to let it go no further than he wants it to go. So you strive in that. And something I love my mother, because my mother, she looked at some of these parents that were disowning their kids, and because they were gay, she said, you don't disown a kid. You don't carry a kid for 9 months, and there's no way you do that. You can't disown a kid no matter what they do. You love them and you stuck with them. God gave you that kid, so I don't care if they're 50, 70, 80. That's your child. You don't disown a child. That's the stupidest thing. She said the stupidest thing she ever heard. And those parents need to be whipped. You can't disown a child. That's your child. You train them. You do the best you can, and you let them go. But you still are there for them. So I thank my mom for that. And that's why I say, just be yourself. And for you guys for Pastor Farah and Bishop Hunt, you guys working with the children and having these, it is so important with these legislations going on now. It's very important. These kids are going to need all the support. They're going to need people to reach out to, because they're going to be so confused. They're not going to know which way to turn. They're going to need, it's like when abortion was illegal before, and people were going in the back alleys, and they were going to get in danger by going to these fly-by-night places to get an abortion. It's going to go that way with these kids when they're trying to get this legislator through. They're going to need places to reach out. They're going to not know where to turn. So it's very important that they have every resource available to help these kids. I have a transgender individual in my that I work with that has been sex trafficked, and that's all she knows. And she runs away constantly, and she is picked up by men. Mm-hmm. And my fear is that she'll get picked up by the wrong one, and I'll be writing a report where I have to notify that she's deceased, because I know that they're not being very kind to trans women. So I fear that when she runs away from CWAP is our program where kids are not, we don't have a place for them. We don't have a foster care for them. Yeah. So they're placed in hotels throughout Dallas, and we watch them in 4-hour shifts. So she runs away constantly, and she runs away to make money. So she solicits herself because she was trafficked, and that's all she knows. So,
and that's a whole mentality in and of itself.
It's normal to her. So it's normal to her, but it's dangerous. You can't stress that into her. So we just have to pray for her. But she like most children need. You
gotta keep her in.
Yeah,
you gotta keep her in prayer, because let me tell you something. It's been a struggle for me. It was a struggle for me for a very long time mentally to get out of that mindset of easy money. It was a struggle. You have to constantly pray with her. You gotta constantly build that encouragement up, because I'm even like, let me tell you something. If a light bill is doing something to do, I'm like, oh, I can do that real fast. And it's not funny, but at the same time, it's like, I don't gotta do that no more. Thank you, Jesus. But you have to keep her in prayer. You have to cover that baby. And a lot of people don't understand. Once you in that mindset of that's the only way that I can make money, you run with it. And then when you just make a decision that you want to come out of it, it's even harder, because that's what you know. It's hard for you to keep a job. Trust me, I done had a couple of jobs, and I'm like, you know what? This not working. I'm going back to this. And then I was like, I made a vow to God that I wouldn't go back. It's easy to go back. Is the one thing to keep on going forward.
So how do you, when you reach out to these kids, this is almost an unmaking. Transformation is a death process. How do you, go ahead, come on, Bishop Hunt. Was you saying something?
Well, it's different because I'm working with youth, but it's different for me because I've been there, done that with certain depending on certain aspects. So I feel like I can relate to some of the youth. Been there, done that as far as like being judged. You have to, wow, you have to take a deep breath before you walk into a room type of shit, because you already know you finna get judged 5 ways from Sunday. And it's sad because you don't even know me, and you already put 2 and 2 together as to my character. Like, how you gonna tell me how my character is all about me and don't know me? Because you judging a book by its cover. So I'm teaching the youth how to deal and how to cope with the teasing and the bullying and the judging and the pretense, because I've been there, done that. I'm like numb to it. I'm expecting it. Somewhere, depending on if I'm around my people, then of course I ain't gotta worry about it. But if I'm around a bunch of like straight folks, depending on what professional setting I'm in, it's a struggle. Until I open my mouth. When I open my mouth and they see how educated I am, and then they be like, whoa, okay, now we got to rethink this, because we just judged her based off her appearance, her looking like a tomboy, trans, whatever you want to call her, or stud or whatever. But it's just coping with it and dealing with it, and how not to get into a fight, because these kids don't have a button of self-control button like we do. So how do we do this without altercations? Because somebody calling somebody a bag, because we in high school setting, so they gonna do name calls and whatever they say back and forth, slurs and stuff. So I be stepping in to resolve it. Like, look,
Do you
got to
deal with
respect
that a
one
lot
another.
in your job now? You are an instructor. What are you? You're an educator,
Not
right?
only that, it's a LTGB school specifically for trans, so that they can learn in a safe environment.
Okay. And
So
see, that was one thing that we're going to be bringing forward in future episodes, because I don't want this to be a one-off. I don't want this to be a one-time thing. I think
yeah,
that the representation is definitely needed in our professions, in our
classroom.
daily lives, in our classrooms, in our homes, in our churches,
Yeah.
wherever,
And it's a
because
lot of
we
other good
are.
teachers. So I'm glad they see that. The principal
Mhm,
married to a woman, but they don't know that. Like, a
mhm.
lot of the person who founded the school was gay. There's a lot of people that the psychologist is gay. And there's some straight people there too. We got a home ec guy,
As
he's
old as I
trans.
am, my theater teacher, my favorite teacher in the school, my theater teacher was gay, and she was married to the
Yeah.
basketball coach,
I'm
and
glad
I'm
the kids get to see
real
that
old.
though. Yeah, the
Yeah.
kids get to see that we could do this, even though I'm trans, I could still be a whole teacher. We got a white guy, a whole true. They gave him the hardest time. Jesus, at every school he go to, but he
And
was
we
a
want it to
white
be
trans male.
mainstream. We want it to be
Mhm.
mainstream. Why does it's
Ooh,
always
they
that
gave him a hard
you
time.
are this, but, it's
Yeah,
like somebody saying you fat, but you cute. You
yeah.
beautiful, but you're black, or you're black, but you're beautiful. That, like, it's the whole
And you
but.
gotta
We
keep
want to take
going.
the but out.
Yeah, you gotta keep going and keep teaching and keep going. That's
Or you're
hard.
you're a trans. I would date you, but you're a trans. Like
Hmm.
what?
Some studs
Either you
be
gonna
dating
date
the
me or you not.
trans at the school. We got some
Come on
studs that'll
now.
date the trans. They young, so they just
It's
doing
after nine
whatever.
o'clock, so I guess
Yeah.
we can talk about that.
Yeah,
That's one thing that we do need to talk about as well, because the whole
crazy.
community, it's there, and so it's taking the reins off of whatever it is that people want to highlight and make it into an exception to loving people, okay, as they
Exactly.
are.
Right.
Exactly.
I see.
This
I'm
time is
open to the
crazy.
universe. So I don't. If I like you, I like you, and I'm going to date you. Um. So, and I tell people that all the time. This is the thing that bothers me, because when I get into this subject, I ruffle a lot of feathers. I hate the
Hmm.
fact that T is on that LGBT, because all the rest of that deals with sexuality and the T deal with identity, and it bothers me to my core, because when you put birds of a flock together, so if you're going to put LGB and then add the T to it, then you're saying that we're sexualized.
Hmm.
Then this is ain't nothing but a sexual fad. So therefore, you have people looking at us as sexual beings, instead of looking at us as human
A
beings,
human being.
because you grouped us in. And I don't have a problem. I love the backs that I stand on, and I respect everything. that the whole community, that what we're doing and where we came from, I respect that. It's just all of that has to do with sexuality, and the T has to do with identity, and it always bothered me growing up.
Well, we're going to talk about that then on our next show, right? Trent, I'm gonna let you take it out because
Yeah,
I
we got a
want to
lot of
talk
stuff we
about
covered
the
today,
T
but we
and the
but we got a lot
identity.
more questions and concerns and thoughts and ideas. And so please know this will not be the last time. It might have been the first time you had us all on the same screen, but it will not be the last time. So thank everybody
Yeah.
for tuning in, watching. Thank you for creating this space for us to have this conversation. And we're looking forward to doing it again.
Oh yeah.
All right, y'all. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys. Good night. Thank you for joining us on Hot Pink Pride Media. We will see y'all next time on Trans Visibility Talk.